So welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 551. And in this episode, we're talking about how perfectionism, or our desire to be a perfect in some way or some form, is a myth. It's something that we experience and we need to break free from it. It is absolutely not to our benefit. We've got to understand what it is, though. We've got to understand what perfectionism is, why it happens, how it happens, the intent behind why it happens. And also, of course, we've got to figure out, well, now we know that, Joseph, how do we let it go? What has to happen in order to let go of that perfectionism that I've got to know everything, I've got to understand everything before I take action on my dreams? Because when you think about it, you may have some big dreams and goals in your life, and you might be thinking that there's a part of you which goes, well, who am I to experience this? Who am I to get this? Am I worthy of it? Am I deserving? What if I get found out? And those thoughts get in our way. Those thoughts cause us to get into the analysis paralysis, when we're so busy analyzing of what could happen or how to make it happen that we literally do nothing about it. We go into procrastination, we go into self-sabotage. And you have big goals and dreams. Maybe you want to start something new. Maybe you want to set up your own business. Maybe you want to be able to jump into a new career or advance your career. But if we start to get into that issue of the analysis paralysis, we will forever remain stuck. We will always be in that loop of what may happen. What if I trip up? I don't know enough. I need more information. Have you ever noticed that, by the way? That we always are on a quest for more information. We don't need more information, we need more application. You see, you know probably more than you need to know, to a big degree, but it's the application that is what is really needed. We need to wake up and go, it's okay, we're ready to make a change. You see, the most fundamental aspects of trying to have perfectionism is that we fear we might be a failure. We fear we might even be a success. We fear that maybe we're not enough. We fear that we might be found out to be an imposter. That is a huge one right now. That we might get found out to not be what we wanted or what other people expected of us. And sometimes we even fear getting help when it comes to that as well, because we feel bad or we feel small. But we've got to make that leap into a new way. We need to transform our mind into a new experience. So let's break it down. When it comes to the perfectionism, we can track it back to many different ways. And I don't want to be able to say, look, you went through this and therefore this is why it happened. But some examples could be maybe when we were growing up, we were looking for validation. Okay, so there's a couple of ways. We could have been like, our parents may have wanted us to achieve, so therefore we try to live up to their expectations, or a teacher's expectations, or a guardian's expectations, or a friend's expectations. And let's just say we didn't make the cut. We didn't get there. And maybe we received something negative because of that. Maybe they said, hey, why didn't you get this test result or this exam? And then we feel like our action did not feel as if it was a form of validation. We didn't get justification for what we did. So in our mind back then, and there's just one example as a child, you tried to do something. You didn't live up to the expectations of someone else or your own expectations of what you should be based on what you think of other people. Therefore, we can internalize it and go, well, that must mean I'm not enough. You see, we do lots of these things in language, in our communication with our unconscious mind. We go, well, if this happened, it means X, Y, Z. Or if this happens, it causes X, Y, Z. And that is a trap that we all fall into. So because I didn't get that job in that interview, it must mean I'm a failure. I better give up. Or because that person rejected me, it must mean I'm not worthy of love. You see, these beliefs that we have about ourselves, and they are ultimately beliefs, we might see them as thoughts or feelings, but really it comes down to our identity. It's our identity of our own ability. And maybe when we were growing up, we were seeking some form of validation from someone. And therefore we came to the unconscious conclusion, and therefore the belief that maybe I haven't got what it takes. Maybe I'm not of value. And like I said, that is one example. Or a later example might be the one in the interview where you get rejected X amount of times, and therefore you come to the conclusion that we're not able to be able to do it, able to achieve that goal or to get whatever our dream is. You see, the way I see it is it's almost like a belief system will dictate your capacity, okay? And what I mean by capacity is your capability. So if you have a belief that you are not enough, or you believe that you need to be perfect, your capacity just shrinks right down. Your capacity is limited, and therefore, because of the anxiety and the fear and the worry of what might happen, therefore, we have that limited capacity, and the next step would be a limiting set of behaviors or actions. We do less, and that is why we have that analysis paralysis. We have the procrastination, we have the self-sabotage. And because then we don't get the results of our desires, it reaffirms that limiting belief about ourselves. So if I didn't believe I was worthy or enough or capable, or I didn't have enough information to get started in any endeavor or dream that I have, it would get to the point that I'm doing less. My capacity is dramatically decreased. And if it's decreased, I show up to the world in a very limited way. I show up in a way that is scared or fearful or doubtful. And of course, fearful, doubtful actions will create a limited set of results. And if we have a limited set of results, it will just reaffirm, oh, that's why I am like I am. Oh, that's why I failed. You see, we get the validation of the results. We get the validation of our experience. We interpret it as this is why it happened. We have reasons, or what I would say sometimes, excuses to not do it anymore. Because I failed. Because I've been waiting this long. It took too long, never happened. And ultimately, it gets to the point that we give up. And to me, that is wrong. I mean, giving up on our dreams is something we should never do. We should never do that because our life is so precious. You are so precious. You have everything you need, but sometimes our mind trips us up and starts to self-sabotage and causes us to be able to not do. So when we think about that perfectionism, the perfectionism is not to be perfect. It's about trying to get some form, sometimes, of validation. We want to make sure that we do well enough. But when it comes to perfectionism, you don't learn from information. You learn from that application. So let me start off with that. You do need information, right? If you want to go for a goal or a dream, you want to go for that job, you want to be able to start a business, you want to be able to get out there, you need some form of information. You need to be able to learn, of course. But we get caught in the trap of learning, of I've got to know everything. But you don't learn in the knowledge, you learn in the action. You will learn from those failures, you will learn, or so-called failures. You learn from your ability to respond. You learn from your experience. I mean, my experience is that I used to be a crazy, anxious, worryful, dreading experience. And I say this all the time because that was my experience and it's very meaningful to me. But I kept on going forward. In fact, I don't know if this is going to work at all. I just tried to do this before we went live. And by the way, if you're listening to this on the podcast right now, we are broadcasting live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Just search my name and I'll show up somewhere. But I want to see if this actually works for us. No, it didn't. Let's go ahead and adjust that. Oh, there we are. Okay. Now look at this. If you can see this right now, that is young Joseph. Now, you might not, obviously you won't be able to see this on the podcast, but hopefully you'll be able to hear this. So this was one of my first videos, which definitely took me about 100 takes, okay? So this is young Joseph, who had let go of a lot of his issues by then. It's weird speaking to myself in the third person, but this is young Joseph, and I was trying to do some videos. This is one of my first ones. I was very raw and young, and I had no idea how to present. I even went on some presentation course. I don't know if it was here or after. But let's go ahead and see if you can listen to this.
Hi there. So following on from my last audio and video blog, I was talking about qualities and how the qualities that we can begin to think about ourselves will be able to enrich our life and change our thoughts, get empowering feelings and new...
So, that is young me. That was me, and that was like literally hundreds and hundreds, or not maybe hundreds and hundreds, but 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 takes of trying to... I'm out of the image here. But ultimately, this is young me. This was like, I don't know, 11, 12 years ago. Maybe longer than that. I was probably like 19 years old, 20 years old at the most, when I'm 37, I think now. So that's what, let's just say it's 20-year-old me. I looked pretty young then. And I was seeing clients, and I was very nervous of everything. But it was so hard to get out of that experience. But do you know what? I look back at my old videos, and you can go to YouTube, just go to youtube.com/Joseph Clough and go into the reverse order, and you'll see all the young videos of me, like me starting out. And you would think, or some people might say, why did he keep going? Why, like, you weren't very good. You were like tripping up, and that was like an edited version. But it was there because I wanted to transform. I wanted to get my message out in the world. My reason as to why to be able to speak and help people was bigger than my fear. Let me say that again for you. Your reason to transform in your life has to be bigger than your fears. If you find more whys to change and to transform, you will leverage that to your unconscious mind. It will cause you to go, even though I'm going through all this stuff, even though I may have failed in the past, even if I don't know everything, I'm ready to learn in the action. You will learn so much more about yourself in actually the so-called failures. They're not failures, they are learnings. That is where you grow. Even you will enjoy more of the journey than the outcome that you desire. It's the work that you put into it. It was the effort. It was facing your fears and taking massive and inspired action. Doing it not because it was fearful, but because it was right. Because it was in your heart, it was in your desires, and therefore you wanted to go ahead and make that change. So realize you don't need to know more most of the time. You just need to apply what you do know, and therefore you will start to learn more. If we think about those who are in different professions, and even maybe you have some experiences of this, you or someone else, when you went into maybe your first job, you didn't know everything about it. A surgeon doesn't know everything about surgery right at the beginning. They know enough, hopefully, but they learn on the journey. They learn in the moment, in the experience. That experience is the growth. So realize that when it comes to that perfectionism, it's actually about the imperfection where you learn. You will learn from those stumbling points. You will learn from when things don't go wrong. But those things that go wrong will allow you to be right or get on the right track. So realize you learn more from experience than the actual education. You will learn on that journey. Now, one thing that most people do, and there's how to stop it, by the way, you need to change your mindset in terms of what I call the comparison conflict. You see, the comparison conflict is you comparing yourself to other people. For example, let's just say you wanted to go live streaming, okay? Now, you've never done it before, but it's something that you really want to go ahead and do. Now, I've been live streaming for a while and I'm okay at it. I've got a lot to grow and I'm ready to learn on all those things, but I've been doing these lives now for a while. And you might look at this and go, and hopefully I'm not trying to sound egotistical here, so just get the analogy, get the metaphor I'm trying to get across. You might see this and go, oh, Joseph knows a little bit about self-development. I want to get on that journey, but because Joseph's doing it, I can't do that because it's got to be perfect or it's got to be more like that. And we can change the scenario. You might see someone else doing your goal and your dream, and you go, that person they're just doing it, and you're comparing yourself to someone else. When you compare yourself to someone else, you don't know their journey. You don't know their experience. You don't know what they started with. Hence why I ask you to go to my YouTube channel, look in reverse, and see how some of it was, I would say, not great. But those were my defining learning lessons. So when you think about it, you don't want to compare yourself to other people. Because if you compare yourself to other people, you can't be that person, so you'll never get there. You'll trip yourself up. So compare yourself not from or to that person, but compare yourself from yesterday. How have you grown? How have you transformed? Compare yourself to how you were 6 months ago. Compare to yourself to how you were maybe a year ago. That should be the only comparison, because that is the prior you. So rather comparing yourself to others, compare yourself to where you were. And if you haven't improved yet, make that your wake-up call and go, I've got to get this done. Because now it's all on me. That is the assumption of responsibility. That is assuming responsibility for my experience. That responsibility for who I am and where I'm heading is my opportunity to grow. That is my springboard. And right now, right in this moment, is your springboard. You know where you are. So let's go ahead and see where we're heading. Let's go ahead and see where we can learn and grow. So once again, if we have a quick recap, we learn from the experience and not from the knowledge. The knowledge is the foundation. We also have got to understand that the comparison conflict is going to hold us back. Don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself from where you are. If you haven't learned more yet from where you are, you're staying the same, let's double down. But the chances are you have improved a little bit. The other thing I want to say about this, it's not about the big leaps, because if we go into the comparison conflict again, we see someone who's maybe made a big and great change. And we go, I can never do that. But you don't see what they did in the meantime, those small steps. You see the so-called overnight success of someone's transformation or goal, the thing that you want to aspire to be, but you don't see what they did. You don't see their journey. You didn't see all the small steps of refining and refining and growing and adapting and adapting. You didn't get that opportunity to see. You just see the success. You just see where they are now, but you didn't see where they were. And that is why if you look at some great documentaries of these inspirational people, it motivates you more because you see their journey from where they were to where they wanted to be. You didn't just see the beginning and then the end of that big leap. You saw the hard work. You saw the adjustments they made along the way, the self-reflection, the adaptation, the resiliency. So don't compare yourself to those big leaps. Know that they had some small steps, and those small steps will create the big leaps. So the small steps that you make right now, they're adding up. That's building the momentum. You're doing something each and every day. I mean, if you want it enough, you got to take action. I said this just the other day. I look for, if I ever choose to work with a client, I look for people who are resourceful, they're willing to ask questions, they're willing to be an open mind, they're willing to be dedicated, to be more dedicated to the solution than dedicated to the pain. And I say that because those who don't do, subconsciously, unconsciously, consciously, you're telling yourself you're more dedicated to remaining the same by the inaction. There is an action in inaction, because your action is not doing something about it. So we've got to be dedicated. We've got to go all in. We've got to take massive and inspired action. We've got to be brave. We've got to be able to realize that you may fall over sometimes, and that's okay. You might trip up, and that's okay. You might look silly sometimes. I mispronounce words all the time, and I'm pretty unapologetic by it. Because it's just me. I'm not doing it with purpose, right? I'm not trying to intentionally trip up on my words or say things in the wrong way. But it's a learning process. And I'm sure if you're a kind-hearted person, you'd be like, well, yeah, I would never be that hard. But we are harder on ourselves, though. Said this the other day. You will probably never treat your best friend like you treat yourself sometimes. You would never say those words to your best friend or your partner that you may be directing within yourself. You might be saying to yourself, well, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I'm not capable. Would you say that to your partner, that you're not worthy? Would you say that to your family, that you're not good enough? Would you say that to your child, that they're not of value? Of course not. You wouldn't say it to anyone, hopefully. So why do we say it to ourselves? Because we believe it about ourselves, because of our past and the decisions that we've made. But that is not who we are. It's what you've learned. It's what you've acquired in limiting decisions and limiting beliefs. But we've got to realize that the small steps will create the big transformations. The small steps will create the overnight success. So be gentle on yourself. Now, the other thing is I want to talk about this is the reverse perfectionism. What is the reverse perfectionism? See, I'm tripping up on my words, and that's okay. The reverse perfectionism is, if we think about perfectionism, we've got to do it perfectly. Everything's got to be just right in our mind, which is usually distorted, by the way. Other people probably wouldn't even care or notice that so-called mistake. But in our mind, it's got to be perfect. We've got to feel a form of validation, a form of, it's got to be just right. Well, what if we focused on the opposite of that? Not that it's got to be just wrong, but rather it has to be just right. What if we just made improvements? And I said this a while back, we just got to almost suck less at something. Like when I learned to drive, I sucked at it. I was terrible. And honestly, I was. I was horrible at driving. When I came to America, I repeated the same story. It's a whole different world out here. I sucked at driving. I didn't focus on being the best driver. I'm not going to be the best driver. But I can suck less at something. And now instantly, that ease is in my body. If you just had it in your attention that I'm just going to get less bad at something, it makes it more gentle. It makes it go, well, all I've got to do is make an improvement. And you see, if you just improved every day by 1%, you won't be 100% better in 100 days, because there's that compound interest, so you'll actually get there far quicker. Just increasing every day that 1%, I'm not going to do the mathematics here, but every day you would just increase by 1%, you will get there so quickly, because the compound interest will grow up or grow. So if I'm just 10% good and I grow then 1% at 11% the next day, therefore I'm growing another 1% on the 11%, if that makes sense. So we've got to learn just a little bit more than we did previously. And that's why, to loop it back, we go and prove ourselves from the previous us, the previous version. You are now version 1 of you. I wonder how exciting it'll be to get to that 2.0 version. And you learn to get there by asking yourself, how can I get better? What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this so-called mishap? How can I notice what I can do better than I did yesterday? How can I suck less at doing something? It takes away the pressure. And that to me is the reversal of perfectionism. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just gotta do something. You gotta just adapt and take action on it. Now finally, this is my philosophy, and I live by 2 philosophies. And I will choose one or the other, whatever feels best for me, and I would like you to do this as well. Either everything is perfect. If we got perfectionism, that means everything's got to be perfect. So everything is perfect. So what you're doing in the imperfection is actually perfection right now. So either in the world, everything is perfect in its present state with the opportunity to evolve and grow. So therefore we can feel better about ourselves. Everything is perfect, I'm just ready to grow. Or the different mindset is that everything is imperfect. And if everything is imperfect, it means what we're doing is perfectly fine in our imperfection. There are some cultures out there who create like fabrics and they kind of make it a little bit wrong. Like they make it a bit unique because they don't want it to be perfect. They want it to be unique, to be different. So there, either everything is perfect or everything is imperfect, and therefore we can't lose either. So you can choose your truth when it comes to perfection. You can learn from it, you can grow from it, you can compare yourself from where you were, you can realize that in the action is the true learning. You see, I don't know how electricity works, but I'm gonna still use it. I don't know all the ins and outs of a car, but I still have the ability and the confidence to drive a car. So you don't have to know everything about your subject, you don't have to know everything about your goal or your dream or your profession, but you've just got to know enough to take action and therefore learn from the action. It's imperfect action is better than no action whatsoever. So focus on being imperfect in your unique way, that you grow in the experience. I care less. I'm gonna suck less at something. I'm gonna focus on being 1% better. Just 10% better. Every week, just maybe 10%. I think that's more manageable than 100%, wouldn't you agree? That if we could just go, okay, well, and think about it for yourself. What is a convenient percentage of you which will make you feel good about it? Not 100%, but a smaller percentage that would make you go, well, I can do that. Like, is it 5%? In the next week, can you get better by 5%? Just as a goal. Maybe in the next month, maybe you want to go like 20%. Think about it. What would be a convenient mindset or goal for you that will cause you to go, yeah, I can do this percentage. I can focus on just getting 5% better in the next 10 days or the next 7 days. Caring less about the 100%, but more about those small percentage points. Those percentage points are going to give you the traction and the momentum to be able to experience what you desire. So think about that. What is that gateway point for you that will feel good about yourself? Because if you set your goals so big and so high too soon, you will build more scarcity in your life. Because now you're so out of reach of that that goal, that you go, oh my goodness, that is so big. How am I meant to be able to achieve that big thing up there? It's like on a mountain. There's never way I'm going to get that. When your goals and dreams are so huge and big, you might be breathing scarcity because it's so far beyond you, because you do not have it right now. Now, it's good to have those goals and dreams, but not to live just by them. Think about how you can break it down into smaller steps. smaller milestones. If my goal, for example, were to be to earn $100,000 every single month, for some of us, we might go, oh my goodness, I'm never gonna get that. That's just like so daunting. Fine. You still want it though, maybe. You might not do, but in this analogy, let's say you do want it. But the fact that we want it and it feels so beyond our capabilities or so far away, we'll get into that analysis paralysis. We'll get the fear to hold us back. So if it's too big in our mindset that it breeds scarcity, worries, and doubts, you will self-sabotage yourself. But we still want the goal. We still want the dream. So what do? Well, let's break it down into 10 versions of it. If we had like 10 steps or 10 milestones, the 10th one would be your big goal. Let's say it was 100,000, right? Well, if we work backwards, what would those milestones be? By the time we get to our first milestone, it could be like, say, $5,000. That could be it. Maybe it's 10, depending what we feel comfortable with. But now that feels attainable, maybe. And if it's not, we can go down to less. But you find out what feels attainable and you get that win. When you get that win, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get momentum. You're going to get satisfaction. You're going to get a building step. You go, well, I got this. I achieved this. Let's get to the next one. It gives you the foundations to grow, in other words. So that way we'll still get toward our big dream and goal. But we've broken it down into manageable key steps or milestones that do not breed scarcity. And in fact, they breed real wonderful success steps. You'll get validation because you get the wins. Every win will compel you to the next step. It will cause you to be more, to have more, to transform more, and to learn in every single process. So to recap this episode, everything's got to be perfect. I've got to be 100% knowledgeable. All of that stuff is a myth. We learned it maybe we were very young or from a certain significant experience, which made us make a judgment call on our own ability. Maybe we didn't live up to someone else's opinions or expectations, even society, family, friends, school, you name it. Somehow, some way, we didn't get the validation that we wanted. Or we went through an event which was pretty significant, where we came to the conclusion that maybe we weren't capable, maybe we weren't of value, maybe we weren't enough, maybe we didn't have what it takes, and therefore that belief system shrunk down your capabilities. That means your actions were less because you're in that analysis paralysis. You were in that self-sabotaging cycle, which only reaffirmed the same results of not getting what you want, which then reaffirmed that belief, well, that's why I'm not enough. But we got to reverse it. We've got to realize that there's more learning and transformation in the action. Imperfect action will always win over non-action or inaction. We've got to get through that. We've got to move. We've got to grow. We've got to learn. We've got to take massive inspired action. Have those big goals. Don't compare yourself to others. Compare to yourself to where you were from 6 months ago. Realize my job is just to suck less at something. Just make those little small percentage points, because that percentage point will cause the compound interest of transformation. To realize you may have that big goal and dream, but let's break it down. Let's be gentle on ourselves. Let's not speak to ourselves when we would never say it to someone that we love or care for. You wouldn't say it to your partner. You wouldn't say it to your friend. So why should we be saying and directing, I am not enough, I am not worthy? There's so much more. You're more than that. And the other thing you can do, of course, is use things like hypnosis, or see someone. Go to work with someone on a one-to-one level. Go into a program. Like there's no shame in getting help. Like, I have a program, many coaches out there, many therapists, and all those things. There's always opportunities out there. There's no shame in looking out for your mental health. So I would invest within that. Me or someone else, I don't care, as long as you get to where you want to be. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Now, I'm going to be closing off this episode, but I'm going to carry on with the live to answer some of your questions. So if you do have questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A box. And for everyone else on the podcast, when you get this as a replay, you can always find us on youtube.com/Joseph Clough, or you can search on Facebook, which is actually facebook.com/Joseph's fan page. And you can actually get notified, subscribe, hit the bell, all those kind of bells and whistles, and that means you can watch these lives. So, for everyone listening to this on the podcast, I wish you the great, most powerful you. Start to apply this. You're more. From whatever you think you are, you're always more. And with everyone else on this live stream, I'm going to go ahead and answer any questions that we may have received. Many thanks and goodbye.